Hello, my name is Josiah, and today I'm going to show you guys Ableton Live 11. So Ableton Live 11 is currently in beta mode, and it is set to be released within the next 3 months. It still just says the first quarter of 2021, but that's where we're at. We're in the first quarter of 2021. So sometime within the next 3 months, it will be released. As I said, I'm currently running the beta version. I was just given access to it a couple weeks ago, and I've been having loads of fun with it, exploring the new features. And today I want to show you guys all about the new templates. They're super cool, super powerful. Once you get your mind around it, they're really easy to use. So I'm going to show you guys how it works. All right, so let's head over into Ableton. Inside Ableton, when you're looking at templates, you'll want to look right down here. Before, you had to save them wherever in your files. Now you just save them right in this spot right here. They'll give you a bunch of default templates, these 4, and unfortunately you cannot delete them and you can't really alter them either. So as you see, I've got my own podcasting template here. Originally I saved it as podcast template and it just saved a copy of it. So I have my own 4 that I've made here, and then these are the default 4. This is probably the only one that I'll use, although this one is 90% of the same thing as this one. I just added my own couple things to it. So we'll hop right in and I'll show you what I've got going. This is my electronic music one. This is for making EDM dubstep type music. So I have it split into 3 sections: drums, melodics, and sound effects. I do almost all of my work in this area, but if you work in this, everything carries over into this as well. In my drums, I have it set up so every new track, both MIDI and regular audio, always has an EQ8 and a utility on it. And that's just because I almost always am rolling off the low end, or shaping the high end, or turning the bass to mono, or lifting the volume. It's super nice to have these pretty much on every track. I also use this gain here for automation rather than this, so that when I get to the mixing stage, I can mix like this. So then basically all of these tracks just have the same thing, with the exception of this one. This is my percussion rack, and instead of just using an audio track, I put a percussion rack here. Currently I have these 3 samples, but most likely what this will be used for is sounds that don't fit into here. So maybe bongos or crash cymbal, so maybe bongos or other things, but this just is a spot for whatever. I also have here a drum bus. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it there or not. We'll see how it gets used. So that's the drums folder. Then in the melodics folder, I have a bass spot where I have a sub and 808 MIDI. In my sub, I have a serum patch, which is literally just a sine wave with volume, release, sustain, volume, and then glide time. That's literally it. What I can do is go in here and do that. So now I'll show you guys how to save it, since I just made a change. I'm going to do 2 things. One, I'm going to save this rack. So you see it automatically popped into user library, presets, instruments, instrument rack, because this is an instrument rack. Now I already have it saved, so I'm just going to hit yes and click overwrite, and it'll automatically overwrite it. You'll also notice I have it saved to be in my instruments here. That's what the little gray dot is. Super nice. This is the way I do it. I have all my kicks, snares, hi-hats, I should say all of my favorite kicks, favorite snares, favorite hi-hats, percussion sounds, and sound effects. So this is like crash cymbals, sweeps, all that good stuff. These are basically effects racks or effects devices that I really like. So for guitars, I like to use this. Guitar chain, it's basically an effects rack with certain guitar plugins that I like to use. And these are my instrument racks that I have made. I don't have very many. I probably should build this up a little bit and get some more of these, because they're really nice to use. If you guys would like to see a breakdown of more in depth on what my effects chains and my instrument racks are, let me know. But now that that's saved, I want this to be saved like this in my template. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fold this back up like I want it to be when I open it up. Click on master, and then I'm going to go to file. I hope you guys can see this. Alright, so when you want to save a new template, you pop open, go down to save live set as template. Then it'll pop into your user library templates folder, which is a new folder they've added. Give it a name and click enter. It'll ask if you already have it. You can overwrite it to save a new one. Now, you might have noticed, probably not, but you might have noticed that in the name here, I actually have a space at the front. The reason that I have done that is so that in the templates folder, my templates pop up on top because the space is notated as a character that comes before all of the other characters. So that's how you can get your templates to sort out from the 4 built-in ones that you can't delete or do anything with. You probably can delete them. I haven't taken the time to figure out how. So I'm gonna real quick go into my other templates and make the same change because I think that that's a worthwhile change, and almost all of my templates have the sub bass in them. So I'm just gonna subtract that real quick, make it in line with the other one, close this back up. So real quick, this is my hip hop beat making template. I might change it to hip hop beat making instead of hip hop music, but so far it works. These are the same 3 instruments. They're good for just laying something out real quick, and then I come back later and replace the sounds. Sometimes I put in live drum instruments, so I've got that there. This is for my melodic instruments. I have a bass, sub, bass guitar, 808 MIDI. Integrated, or my instruments, I've got a MIDI track and an audio track because sometimes I do both, but sometimes I do one or the other, but usually not too much more than that. I have a spot for samples because sometimes with hip hop you want to use samples, although sometimes that can be a legal trip, so I advise using samples that either you made or are legally you're able to use them. An effects spot and a draft spot for vocals because sometimes I like to draft vocals, either rhythms or melodies for the chorus or whatever the song needs. Alright, so I'm going to real quick open file, click save live template as, and just overwrite what I already have because I'm just slightly modifying it. Sometimes it does pop up with this, with the -1 version. Usually it either goes away in a little bit or I just come back and delete it. Either way, it's not really in the way. It doesn't actually pop up in this folder. And then these 2 don't have that track. I'll show you real quick. This is one, most of it is what comes with Ableton, and then I just added this. So it comes with a little mastering thing so you can get your volume up. A lot of rookie podcasts do not get high volume when they start. And you want to be loud because otherwise people have to crank it up on either their speakers, their headphones. You want to be at a volume where they can just comfortably go from their podcast to your podcast without a noticeable volume decrease. I also got a spot for music with the built-in rack that allows the music to be ducked by the voice, which comes through here. Also has a rack for controlling, for de-essing, compression, low cutting, and then also an ambience rack if you want to have whatever else underneath it. Maybe you want to do your podcast in the jungle, and so you put jungle sounds underneath it. Then what I added is the sound effects rack, which just allows me to play random sound effects. Pretty fun. If you were to do that, I would recommend what you do is you get a little controller so you can trigger your sound effects, and then definitely go in on all of the effects and go to the trigger mode. You'll pop this side thing open, go down to launch, and then click trigger, and then quantize, hit none. So as soon as you click it, it triggers. It doesn't have to wait for the beat because by default it is set to, I believe, a quarter note, which means you'll click it and then whenever it gets to that beat, then it'll go. Especially if you're recording in live as well. And then I don't think there's anything on the master. Nope, nothing on the master. Alright, and the last template I have is for vocal recording. Inside my vocal recording, I have a spot for additional drums and an instrumental and effects. Oftentimes what will happen is the artist will bring in an instrumental, and sometimes you might want to add drums just to add little fills or excitement to complement their voice. Sometimes you might want to add effects, but for the most part you just bring in an instrumental, and just like all my other audio tracks, I just have an EQ and utility on that, and then over that you'll record the vocals. I have the vocal track in gold just so it's easy to see because it's the most important thing. The FX, the instrument, and the drums, that should all just hide at the top. In fact, I'm even gonna drag the effects up here because that should hide more so than the instruments. And then I think I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna change this one's color to this one. And I'm going to assign track color to everything inside of it. This one's color to this one. And that way it goes from most important to least important, because you'll be spending most of your time working on here. You might add you might do some things to the instrumental, you might add some effects, you might add some drums. All right, and then on my vocals, one thing I just realized is this whole thing actually needs to be on the group, not on just the track, because I end up having a bunch of vocal tracks. And I might as well just send them all through the same processing so they all sound like one cohesive unit. And then if I want special processing, I put it on the individual track. So this is a pretty beefy chain. I was inspired by Reed Stefan, who is also makes YouTube videos on a lot of this, but I've also put my own touch on it. I really like this vocal doubler. It makes it sound like there's two vocals, one on each side, that are slightly different, which is kind of nice. Sometimes you want to record twice, sometimes you just want to put a vocal doubler. It's just a different vibe. I haven't messed around with it too much, but the hybrid reverb is brand new to Ableton 11, so I've got that in here. And it basically, before I had the they call it an algorithmic reverb, which is the default reverb in Ableton, and the convolution reverb, which is basically it's a reverb that is based off of a room instead of built by an algorithm. And so this new plugin, hybrid reverb, combines both of them into one instead of having two separate. So I used to have two chains here, which was the regular reverb and the convolution reverb, and then I would have to blend the two and pick which one I want. Now it's all in one plugin, so I'm kind of excited about that. Got some delays. And I'll link to the video that has the original rack that I copied this from in the description. Some compression, glue compression, regular compression, and then I haven't figured out what to do with these last 16 macros yet, but having these macros mapped is going to make everything relatively really easy. You just dial in. So this is the DS or DS threshold. So this is the threshold. You just push it to where you want it. Parallel compression, the more I go this way, the more I mix it in. Reverb mix, the more I mix it in, the more it's there. This is the doublers, dry and wet. This is the delays. I like to automate these four throughout the song, so at the end of phrases it fills it up with extra delays. This is the compression. I believe this is the threshold. Yep, the threshold of the compression. I should put comp thresh. Let me double check and make sure that that's what it is. Yep, as you can see, I'm moving there. So I'm going to Control R and then just space thresh, just so I remember it's the compression threshold. This is the OTT mix, and this should really start at 0 because I don't usually want to OT the crap out of everything. So I'm going to start this at -12. I'm going to start that at 0%, and then this is the saturation drive. I have it on there a little bit right off the top. It's going to be almost unnoticeable at that amount. Sometimes you just want to add a little warmth, a little bit of like buzz to it, and that oftentimes makes it nice. And then I've got all of these folded up because these really should just be dialed in with these knobs. Some of these, the compression and the glue, this is the parallel compression. Some of these I might need to dial in the individual instrument. The delays actually should probably be able to fold up unless I'm forgetting something. The reverb I'm going to need to dial in pretty much every time. And the vocal doubler I'm actually going to fold up as well. Let's see if I can get that to disappear without. Nope. So apparently it must have the chain there. I'll have to figure out why sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't, because I have some that don't. Like on here, it doesn't have that popped open. Maybe it's because there's only one chain and not multiple. But we'll get to my master chain in a second. So now I'm gonna go, so I've made some tweaks to this. I'm going to save the rack, and then I just hit 6 to put it in my effects chains, which I should probably change to effects rack for consistency's sake. And then I will go to File. Actually, I'm going to do that like I said I was. Effects, Racks, hit enter, and then I'm going to go to File, Save as Live Template, Vocal Recordings, and yes, I will overwrite it. So that's pretty much all of my 4 templates that I use currently. We'll see, I might make tweaks. They're always growing, changing. The last thing, and this is pretty much on all of them, is on my master. I have 2 effects that I keep on my master. One is the pitch drop effect, which comes in Max for Live. And it's basically when you turn off the turntable and it slows down. It's that effect. I also have an auto filter because oftentimes I like to cut out the high frequencies and just leave the low and then open it back up. That's a nice effect to have. Sometimes I just do that on beats, sometimes I do it on everything. I then also like to have the spectrum so I can see what's going on. Sometimes that's really useful for clinical work. And then I have a device named Mono and a device named Dim. And I have them mapped to C. Apparently I don't have them mapped, which is weird. So I somehow did not manage to get the mapping to save in all of my templates, but I have Mono mapped to C and Dim mapped to V, so that if I ever want to check my mix in mono, C, or if I want to dim it down by 36 decibels, D. And that just allows me to check it, make sure the stereo width is good, and make sure that it's good at a quiet volume as well as a loud volume. So again, I'm going to go in and I'm going to save as live template. I'm going to overwrite that. And then since I noticed that, I'm going to go back in and check my other templates and see if the other templates are missing that as well. And actually, I'm going to add this in on my master in the podcasting one. Save changes. No, I will not save changes because I already saved it as a template. I'm going to go into my master. I'm going to go to users, and audio effects rack is already open. And I'm going to put the master utility rack, which is what I named it, right here. And so that'll be here. And then I will do Control K, click on this, C, click on this, V, and then Control K to exit that. And then I will go up to the file and save live as template, save it, overwrite it. And I'll just do that again a couple times. All right, so that's a look at the new way that Live 11 integrates templates. It's pretty cool, should be pretty nice, make it easy. I mean, it's right here, it's integrated. The way I had it done before wasn't too bad. I have my own folder added in here. On this computer, I named it APF, which stands for Ableton Project Files. Right now, they're not super sorted, but on my old laptop, which I have way more project files on, I have it all sorted, and so I have a folder within this folder for templates. It'd be like in here underneath my name, and then instead of remixes, I would have templates, and I had all my templates in there. But this is much nicer, and hopefully I end up using it more than I did before. So that's been this video on Ableton Live 11 templates. I hope you guys like it. If you want me to go into more details on the other racks that I've made, some stuff like that, and the new rack features are especially cool, let me know and I will do that. Thanks. See you guys next time.